as you listen to this program, North Carolina school kids may well be sitting near you at a computer engaged in virtual learning. Of course, that's the transition in K-12 education that has been required here in North Carolina due to Governor Roy Cooper's order to close all public schools till at least mid-May as COVID-19 works its way through North Carolina. Here to discuss some of the implications of kids going online and bricks and mortar schools being closed is Dr. Terry Stoops. He is the Vice President for Research, the Director of Education Studies here at the John Locke Foundation. Terry, welcome back.
Thank you.
So this could not be more in your wheelhouse. Not only are you the researcher and analyst, you're a former teacher yourself. You are one of the founders of a public charter school in Wake County. Your wife is a teacher and administrator. So tell us what's going on. Are kids showing up online for school?
Well, some definitely are, but we don't know how many are actually showing up online. And, you have some teachers reporting on social media that almost all of their students are showing up. And you have other teachers reporting on social media that barely any of their students are showing up. And because teachers are not keeping attendance, it'll be impossible for us to know how many students have been showing up for those virtual sessions or completing assignments. Another problem that compounds this is the fact that there are no grades necessarily being given. A lot of schools have moved to a pass-fail model, so as long as students are doing the minimal amount of work, they'll probably pass. And so that's another complicating factor in trying to transition from the bricks and mortar education to an online one.
We know that in districts around the state, we are hearing and reading stories that there may be some kids who don't have adequate access to the internet. Other kids may not have the motivation or have parents in the household. Maybe the parents are out working in what's been defined as essential services. Is it that kind of thing that is keeping kids away, or is there just a perception that school really isn't in session?
There is a wide variety of reasons why students aren't showing up. Certainly, the limitations of having an internet-accessible device is one, or a broadband connection. I think that's a very important reason why some kids aren't showing up. But you find that there are students that don't feel like this is a real education and that they'll pass anyway, so they don't feel it necessary. You have some parents that are starting to believe that this really isn't a real education either, and that they would rather have their child doing other activities than engaging in online learning with a teacher that is only occasionally in contact with their child. One of the uproars on Twitter recently was a parent saying that she's done having her kid do online education for the year because she doesn't think that it's very valuable for him, and that she can come up with activities that are much more valuable for his education. And you start to see some other parents agreeing that the education that their kids are receiving online is not up to par, and so they see it as a waste of time for their child.
Pass-fail seems to me to have all sorts of implications. Number one, how do you really know? Is there an indication that a child has done well or not done well? What about those kids who spent the part of the school year prior to COVID-19 working really hard and trying to get that A, trying to build up, their grades so that they can do well next year, or in the case of older kids, move on to college?
This has been an issue in Wake County, that there are Wake County parents that are upset that grades aren't being given just for that very reason. The kids have been working hard. They've been taking advanced placement courses. They've been trying to get the highest GPA possible to get into competitive colleges and universities. And now it's on a pass-fail system where these kids are on par basically with students that aren't trying as hard. So for the most part, a lot of school districts have resisted the temptation to go back to a conventional grading system and are going to a pass-fail, probably because of the unpredictability of the education that's being offered and the unpredictability of what the students are being asked to do and put forward as work.
Terry, is the school year going to end at the traditional time? What's ahead here?
Well, that's really the question. Governor Cooper closed schools until May 15th, and that means that schools can reopen on May 18th. And that really is the best case scenario. At this point, I think around 21 states have canceled classes for the rest of the school year. I think Governor Cooper was smart to not cancel classes for the rest of the school year and at least give an opportunity for students to come back for a few weeks before the end of the traditional school year. But I think in the end, he will probably cancel classes for the rest of the school year and will be faced with having to deal with the learning loss that came from these previous couple months and from the summer. And that will be the real dilemma going forward is what do we do for these students who have been ill-served by online education and received no education over the summer?
And to that point, let's kind of work out this scenario a bit. Let's say that the governor chooses to cancel the entire school year. What if there is a county or counties that wants to come back into session, feels they need to? For example, as you and I are talking, there are at least half a dozen North Carolina counties that have 0 incidents of confirmed COVID-19 cases. So would local districts have the ability to say, that's nice, Governor Cooper, but we know best here on the ground in our county?
Probably not. I think that the governor's order would probably stand in that case, and probably most school administrators would be reluctant to buck the governor in deciding to come back. So I don't think that would necessarily happen. I think it would certainly be a sound idea, and it should be one that's being discussed with the governor, but the governor would probably have to give some sort of opening for that to happen.
And there might be some real big-time funding questions involved in a decision like that as well, since a big piece of funding comes from the state, at least. So that's going to be fascinating to watch going forward as we hit mid-May and what the governor's decision will be. Terry, I am also seeing on social media some parents saying, well, is the answer to try to catch my kid up, is the answer a longer day, a heavier class load? What do you hear about that?
Well, we don't know, and there's a lot of discussion being put forward about what to do next. Some options include a summer session, but that would require additional funds. There has been a proposal to hold kids back. Low-income, low-performing students should have to repeat the grade next year. I don't think that one is going to go very far. And so I think a lot of people are looking to see what's going to happen in the 2020-2021 school year, whether there will be longer instructional days and other ways for the teachers to be able to catch up and make sure that students are prepared for not only what they missed, but what they were to learn during the next school year.
What does this mean for testing that we traditionally see done each school year and our ability to measure a student's growth, learning growth from year to year?
Well, testing is waived this year, and I think the General Assembly is eventually going to pass legislation that codifies the waivers that were granted by the federal government. But the real question is, what do we do with the 2020-2021 school year? Should we continue testing then? Is it valuable to have test scores after students missed months of school? I don't believe that it is. I think we should waive it for next year as well and just concentrate on getting kids caught up. That's probably an unpopular opinion, and I think it would take a lot for us to get to that point, including another federal waiver. But I think we have to look at using the next school year as a recovery school year and plan accordingly starting now.